Good Tuesday evening to you. Hope you are having a great day. Thanks for joining More Sports and Les Levine. Dave Bacon filling in for Les Levine. We'll be joined by Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com, Mary Kay Cabot, as well as columnist for cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer, Doug Lesmerises, in the second half of the show. Going to talk a lot of Browns and a little bit of Buckeyes. Browns getting ready for their divisional matchup against the top seed in the AFC, the defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. But to get here, they had one of the best wins since the franchise has returned when they beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh in that first Super Wildcard round. And it was quite a scene in the Browns locker room celebrating the win.
The man with the plan. What we got? The man with the plan.
We back in the lab tomorrow.
The man with the plan.
Today, we back in the lab tomorrow.
What's up, Juice? What you say, Juice? Come back. I'm in the motherfucking jelly. Turn up! Pussy! Turn up! Hey! Run it back! The Browns gonna be the Browns! Hey! Get him out of here, Sean! Next week, personal. I told you, Bert, it was time for them to go home, baby. Maybach, baby. It's time. What you say? Same old Browns, huh?
Browns celebrating that win in the first round of the playoffs against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's welcome in Mary Kay Cabot, beat reporter for the Browns, as well as the pages of the Plain Dealer. Mary Kay, you've been covering this team as I have for a long time. Where does that rank as far as wins go for the franchise?
It's way up there. I mean, it reminds me back of, in the late 80s when they were winning big and going to AFC championships games. It just sort of has that vibe to it. This team does. It just seems like it's sort of team destiny to me, and anything can happen.
What about the way they performed given all the obstacles? I mean, you had guys who were meeting Baker Mayfield in the locker room playing guard at the end of the game. I mean, there were so many obstacles, and they seem unfazed, and the Browns seemed to believe they were going to win that game to me.
Oh, they knew they were going to win that game. I mean, by the time I got done with the Zoom calls on Friday, I knew they were going to win it because they were so confident. They were so sky high over this thing. And then Juju Smith-Schuster just kind of pushed them over the top and gave them that last little bit of motivation they need to really get their game faces on there. But they knew they were going to win this game. They knew they had the talent to win this game. And here's the thing to remember. Even though it seemed like it was bad news after bad news all week, they still had their 5 Pro Bowlers on offense. They still had their Pro Bowl players on defense like Myles Garrett and Sheldon Richardson. And, I just feel like, they knew that they were going to be the better team on that day, that they wanted it more, and they were going to take it to the Steelers.
And good news early this week, it appears they're going to be a whole lot healthier against the Kansas City Chiefs. It looks like a number of people, including head coach Kevin Stefanski, he expects to be back Thursday. Do they expect Bitonio and Ward and Johnson and et.al. to be available for that Kansas City Chiefs game?
Yes, exactly. As I reported on Sunday during the game or before the game, that they were expecting to have all those guys back, Joel and Denzel and all those guys, Kevin Johnson and Kadero Hodge are expected back for this game. As long as everything goes the way it's planned and the way it has been going with negative tests each day, those guys will be back and they should be in their starting roles.
There have been no positives, so you would assume, unless something drastic happens overnight, that they will be able to open up the facility and actually get on the field and practice. Again, something that this team hadn't been able to do the last couple of weeks very often.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about that is that J.C. Treader mentioned it was almost like a mini bye week for them last week when they had to cancel practice on Wednesday and Thursday. It gave a lot of guys a chance to heal up, and they worked on the mental side of the game. So it was a little break for them. And then they were able to come back, get in a really good practice on Friday, and then put it all back onto the field on Saturday in a walkthrough before they left for Pittsburgh. So in some ways, it might have worked in their favor.
Now, the flip side of it is you get the Kansas City Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champs, 14-2. Just a lot of really talented players. This is a different animal than the Steelers, and it's a really talented team.
It really is. It's an immensely talented football team, and it will be a tremendous challenge for the Browns because, obviously, as you mentioned, they're 14-2. One of those losses came in their season finale, in which they rested most of their starters. So you can't really even necessarily count that as a loss because they probably would have won that game. So really a team that's lost one game to the Raiders this year. And it's going to be a tremendous challenge because they can score at will. They can score at any time. Patrick Mahomes is a candidate for NFL MVP. He's having a terrific season, 38 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. But having said all that, I think they can be beat. In his last 3 games, Patrick threw 4 interceptions, 3 in one game and 1 in another game. He's only had 6 all season. 4 came in his last 3 games. Now, maybe they were kind of, coasting a little bit towards the end and didn't have their complete game faces on. And that's not going to happen on Sunday. They will be ready for the Cleveland Browns. But I do think there are some areas in which the Browns match up well against these Chiefs.
Yeah, the other thing is, you mentioned they rested a lot of guys, and they had the bye week. So there's going to be a significant portion of that team that hasn't played the last 2 weeks, which is, it's kind of interesting. A lot of teams don't necessarily like that, but I guess at this point in the season, you take the rest as opposed to, being sharp, quote unquote sharp.
Well, last year they got down 24-0 against the Titans and had to claw their way back from that. They don't want to do that again, the Chiefs. They want to be able to start fast in this game. And like you said, that can be difficult to do, to go from 0 to 100 miles an hour that they're going to have to do on Sunday afternoon after being off for so long. The Browns, meanwhile, are going to be coming in riding high with a lot of momentum. And I just posted a story a few minutes ago as we were starting the show open on Sammy Watkins providing the Browns with a little bit of bulletin board material. Now, he didn't learn a lesson from Juju Smith-Schuster last week. He came out on Twitter during the game. I think it was somebody asked him, or maybe it was yesterday that the guy responded. But somebody said, "Oh yeah, looks like the Browns are going to provide some competition next week." And Sammy Watkins responded and said, "I wouldn't go that far, LOL." Okay. So last week, the rallying cry was, the Browns is the Browns. They get more disrespect this week. I wouldn't go that far. Okay. It doesn't take much for these guys to get super fired up. And this will be another one of those things.
And again, it's coming from Sammy Watt's the guy that he's had a tough time staying on the field. So, I mean, it's like Sammy, back off. The other thing that you alluded to, and Andy Reid, Chiefs head coach, addressed it. There are some things that the Browns can take advantage of, mainly the running game. Andy Reid is very well aware of how important Chubb and Hunt are to the Browns. Let's listen to Andy Reid.
That's where it starts, is with the runners, and then they've got a good quarterback, obviously, and they do play passes off of that. And they make it look just like they do the run plays. So you've got to be able to decipher and then transition. They've got good receivers and tight ends. So you gotta be, play physical on those guys because they do a nice job. And that offensive line does a nice job of the run and pass game.
And Mary Kay, you alluded to it. One thing the Chiefs don't do well is their defense. I think it's near the bottom of the league. I think it's 21st rush defense, and that's, if you fall behind, it's a lot different falling behind a team like the Browns that can run the ball in short pass as opposed to a team that has to throw the ball to rely on that.
Yeah, and not only are they 21st against the run in regular statistics, but in Football Outsiders DVOA, they are 31st against the run, second last in the NFL. So that's not good when you're going against Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And not only are you going against a very fired up Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, But as we saw in the video that you showed at the Open there, is that Kareem Hunt is going in with a major chip on his shoulder. There's a lot to be said for the emotional aspect of a football game. He has a lot to prove. He's upset that the Chiefs did not stick by him, even though a lot of teams might not have taken a chance on him at that time. John Dorsey did. He drafted him there, signed him here, but the Chiefs felt it was time to part ways with what they saw on that video there in 2018. So Kareem Hunt is going in with a lot of emotion. I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin Stefanski makes him the game captain. I don't know if that'll happen, but I could see it happening. And he's going to be lights out.
What do you see as a key when you look at the Chiefs and you look at this matchup? What's the key for the Browns?
Well, if they can force Patrick into some mistakes, I think that's what they're going to need to do. They've got to get Patrick off of his mark. Myles Garrett is going to have to come up big. Look, Myles Garrett was picked number 1 overall that year, and Patrick was number 10 in that draft in 2017. So it's almost the 2017 draft bowl there too a little bit. But Myles is going to need to try to get Patrick, maybe on the move, although he's great on the move too. But they need to rattle him a little bit, maybe somehow force him into a couple of mistakes. I think that's key. And then the Browns are going to have to, they're just going to have to keep pace. They're going to have to be able to score points, but they can do that. I was asked on Kansas City radio today, can they get into a shootout? I'm like, yes, the Browns can get into a shootout. They have scored 48 points, 41 points, 35 points. I mean, this is a football team that can score a heck of a lot of points.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think you're going to shut down Kansas City. I think the only way you're going to beat them is to outscore them, to be honest with you, which is fine. The Browns, they've shown they're capable of doing that.
Yeah, they can do it. And, another strategy, obviously, is to try to keep them off the field as much as you possibly can. But they don't even need to be on the field that long to score points. I mean, they're so quick strike and big strike that they can do it. But it will help the Browns that they've got Denzel Ward coming back, and Ronnie Harrison should be a little bit more healthy this game, and Kevin Johnson should be back. So their secondary should be way, way better than it was in the past game when Ben Roethlisberger threw for 501 yards on them. It's going to be a tall order, but I think the Browns have an advantage against the Chiefs' defense.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com, as well as in the pages of the Plain Dealer. We have to take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, more talk about the Browns-Chiefs matchup coming up. More sports and Les Levine will continue. Stay with us.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Do you like Ohio State football? Would you like to get information from me, Doug Lesmerises, about Ohio State football without having to look at my face? We have got the plan for you. Become an Ohio State text subscriber through cleveland.com. You send a text, 614-350-3315. What do you get? 2, 3, 4 texts right in your phone every day about Ohio State football. Inside information, polls, voting, all kinds of things. You can be on our podcast. We take text subscriber questions on our Buckeye Talk podcast every week. If you really want to be involved with Ohio State football, in season or out of season, become an Ohio State text subscriber from cleveland.com. Send a text to 614-350-3315. 14-day free trial. What do you have to lose? $3.99 a month after that. 614-350-3315. I'll see you in your phone.
Tri-C is here for you. Now more than ever, you need a post-secondary education. So I encourage you to start your journey here at Tri-C. The majority of fall classes will take place online, But we've added a variety of formats to meet your learning needs, and we've taken many steps to keep you safe on campus. Whether you're ready to get started or your 4-year plans have changed, Tri-C is where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. More sports, and Les Levine continues. Dave Bacon filling in for Les Levine. Browns celebrating what was the first playoff win in a long, long time for guys that have been a part of this franchise. An outstanding game against the Steelers in Pittsburgh in a playoff game where they hadn't won in a long, long time.
It's just very surreal. You know, it's just one of the things I'm big on, you know, just being in the moment and, you know, just being in that moment. And it was just a blessing, you know, to like that's a team I've lost to quite a few times in my career as a Brown. So being able to just be on the other side and to get that victory, you know, in their house, you know, and it be, you know, my first, you know, playoff victory was very special. So.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. Steve Dorshik is next.
Larry, what are some of the things about the Browns that make you think that you can compete against the best team, at least in the conference, you know, the defending Super Bowl? What do you like about this team? What makes you think that you have a real good chance to win this next game?
Just the resiliency in the fight. You know, we don't really look at, you know, the predictions or the whatever people have to say. It's just really us against, you know, the world, I kind of feel like. So we're just about the work. You feel me? And we know that when you work hard, you put everything in the right perspective. You know, you give it your all. You always give yourself a chance to put yourself in a position to win. So we like our chances as far as just continue to just grind, continue to work, and just continue to focus at the task at hand and understand that it's about us, what we do in preparation, getting ready for this, you know, next challenge this week. So.
Larry Ogunjobi talking about the Browns as they get ready for the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round of the playoffs. Let's bring back in Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com, as well as in the page of the Plain Dealer. Mary Kay, that sure sounds like a message that Kevin Stefanski has preached, I think, from the first time he addressed the media.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is a football team that's very confident. They block out the noise. They don't worry about things that they can't control. They really focus in and hone in on the next game. And that's what they've done all along. And they believe they can beat anybody. I asked Kevin Stefanski that again yesterday. He said, we're one of 8 teams right now, and we'll take those chances. I mean, he's starting to really talk in a confident way. He mentioned Super Bowl last week. Now they're all starting to kind of talk that way. They are talking Super Bowl. I think it's important to note that.
Well, and I mean, let's just do the math. 2 more wins, and they're in the Super Bowl for the first time in franchise history. It's close.
It's very close, and it's doable. I thought all along that the one team that could prevent them from getting there would probably be the Chiefs. And now that I have seen the Browns go into Pittsburgh and do what they did, I think they can beat the Chiefs, okay? I do. I think they can beat the Chiefs for some of the reasons that we mentioned before. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I think they have what it takes. They are capable of doing it. And one of the reasons is because Baker Mayfield's not throwing any interceptions. He's thrown 1 in his last 10 games. As I mentioned before, Patrick has 4 in his last 3 games. He hasn't had many this season, but that's not a good trend for him. So, you know, that coupled with the way the Browns feel about everything, and then Sammy Watkins' little bulletin board material, that I think that will have a factor too.
When you look at Kansas City, you certainly have to be concerned about Tyreek Hill getting behind the defense, and then Travis Kelce, a local guy, a tight end. Tight ends seem to always be something that this defense has to be aware of, and Kelce's the best in the NFL probably.
Yeah, he's amazing, you know, and it's great that he's out there representing Cleveland well, except for in this game, right? But when I watch him play, I think, go Travis, because I like his personality. I like his game. I like everybody about him except for Browns fans, not this game. Yes, they're going to have to be able to contain him a little bit. I think it might take a couple different tries. I mean, they might have to try Malcolm Smith to see if they can slow him down a little bit. And if that doesn't work, then they go to plan B. They might have to use a couple different guys. They might have to use a zone. I don't know how they're going to do it, but he's got to be a focus. As you mentioned, Tyreek Hill has to be a focus. And they just have a lot of weapons, and Patrick himself is obviously the biggest one of all.
And this offense, I've watched the Chiefs a little bit this year. It seems like they're almost a basketball team. They get a big play, and then they want the ball back, and they want another. It builds exponentially. They get momentum from these big splash plays. So if you can make them drive and do some of the things they did, the Browns did against the Steelers, I think that's kind of what they're going to have to do defensively.
Yeah, and it will help tremendously to get those stops when you've got a guy like Denzel Ward. He has at least 18 pass breakups this season. That's huge. I mean, he actually is somebody that, you can put on Tyreek Hill. And, I would much rather have him on Tyreek Hill than Robert Jackson, right? So if Denzel comes back and is himself, then I think that's going to be huge in this game to try to slow them down a little bit. And defensive guys are just going to have to step up. Now, Ben threw for 501 yards last week, but once again, the Browns were without two of their top cornerbacks, and that just makes a big difference.
Well, the other thing is he threw 4 interceptions and they had another turnover. So if you want the 500 yards, I'll give it to you if you give me the 5 turnovers.
Exactly. Now, once again, Patrick, before these last 3 weeks, only had 2 interceptions his whole entire season. If the Browns get them, they're going to have to earn them. But I'm sure that they will find ways on film to get them, because I'll tell you what, this defense, that's what they focus on. They know that they have to get the ball back. And they work on that from the minute they hit the practice field until the minute they're off the practice field. It's get the ball, and they've done a great job of that.
We have a phone call. Let's welcome in Mike in Florida. Mike, appreciate you waiting. What's on your mind tonight, Mike?
Yeah, hey, first off, great job, guys. And specifically, Mary Kay, you've done a phenomenal job this year reporting with all the COVID situations and with all the changes going on within the organization. I wanted to get your take on Stefanski and what he's done for this organization, and specifically, at what point did you realize that he's different, the organization's different, and this was going to be a special year? Because I don't think Cleveland's seen, when you talk about great coaches, you think of Lenny Wilkins with the Cavs, you think about, Marty Schottenheimer, and we've had so many different coaches over the years with the Browns. They always talk the talk, but they didn't walk the walk. And one of the things he talked about was he was just part of an organization. Baker's just part of an organization. Not one person's bigger than the organization. And I think all the guys have bought in, which is pretty special. And, whether they win or lose this weekend really doesn't matter. The future seems to be really, really bright. And I just wanted to get your take on when you really thought this organization took off, and when you felt, at what point this year you said, man, this guy's special. I'll hang up and listen. But great job. Really appreciate the job you guys do.
Thanks, Mike. Go ahead, Mary Kay.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. First of all, thank you so much for your nice comments. I really, really appreciate that. Just out here working really, really hard to bring the best information that I possibly can to Browns fans as fast as I can, as well as I can. And I really do put my heart and soul into this for you guys. So I really appreciate your amazing comments there. Thank you very much. As far as Kevin Stefanski, you just knew that there was something special about this guy right from the start. I've sat through a lot of those press conferences. I've talked to a lot of different people, and there was just something about him. There was a confidence, an intelligence, a self-assuredness, and I think that's an important quality for a coach to have. You've really got to be really strong in character. You can't fake it. You cannot fake it because it's too much of a high pressure job. And if you're not that guy, if you're a fraud, you will be exposed so fast, it will not be funny. And I've seen it happen many times. I felt he was the real deal right from the start. I talked to many people that confirmed that, including his first mentor, Brad Childress, who is extremely high on Kevin Stefanski, former Vikings coach and former Browns offensive coordinator. He just received rave reviews from everybody that you talk to, and he has nailed it this year. And I can't say enough good things about him.
Mary Kay, the way he handled the first loss, the big loss, the loss to, I think it was the Ravens, he just said, I'm not going to ride the wave. You know, we're not going to ride the wave. That spoke volumes to it's like, okay, you got somebody who realizes I have to be the calm guy in front of, 53, how many ever he had onto the practice squad as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every single thing he's had to handle this year, I would imagine that Browns fans are incredibly impressed by everything. There's never been a time where he has let you down in terms of handling a situation, whether it's COVID, whether it's social justice, whether it's that first loss to the Baltimore Ravens, whether it's Baker Mayfield struggling and the whole world questioning him, whether it's losing to the Jets, which could have been catastrophic. That could have kept them out of the playoffs if they didn't come back and rebound the next week. So he's handled everything really, really well, including not being able to coach in the playoff game, which I can't even believe still happened. I still can't believe that he had to be at home in his basement for that, but he even handled that well. So the Browns are in good hands.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com. As always, we appreciate the time and the insight. You can read her in the pages of the Plain Deal. You can see her on cleveland.com as well. Mary Kay, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Time for us to take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we are joined by Doug Lesmerises, columnist here on cleveland.com, talking more Browns and some Buckeyes. More sports and Les Levine. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Shelley, our garage floor is just awful.
I know. We really need Nature Stone.
Cracks, uneven concrete, it's slippery.
I keep telling you, we need Nature Stone.
Coach, only Nature Stone solves all those problems. That's why it comes with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty.
And Nature Stone is absolutely beautiful and so easy to clean.
Schedule today at naturestone.com and get up to half your garage floor free. Hurry, offer ends soon.
Herb, Nature Stone fixed every problem in our garage.
I told you.
It's not just a floor.
Wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
More sports and Les Levine continues. See the number if you want to get involved. Dave Bacon filling in for Les Levine tonight. Steve Smith Jr., the former Panthers and Ravens quarterback, had some interesting things to say about this matchup and as far as the Browns and Chiefs go. And what he had to say was running the ball and playing keep away from Patrick Mahomes is your only plan. If you're asking Baker Mayfield to go shot for shot with Patrick Mahomes, the only way it's going to happen is to use a basketball analogy. Patrick Mahomes is Steph Curry. Baker Mayfield is shooting free throws like Shaq. You don't want to put the whole game on his back. He will do some Baker-type stuff and doesn't always end well for the Cleveland Browns. It's a little bit lazy there by Steve Smith. If you said that last year, I might have agreed with it. If you said that earlier in the year, might have agreed with it. Last part of the year, wouldn't agree with it at all. I think it's a little bit of a cheap shot, and I think it's a little bit dated. Let's welcome in Doug Lesmerises, columnist here on cleveland.com, as well as pages of the Plain Dealer. Doug, you see that? What's your reaction to that?
I mean, does he think Baker's going to throw 50 times and they're going to forget that Nick Chubb exists? I mean, why would that happen? I mean, sometimes people think that like being explosive is throwing it and that like running it is grinding it out. Have you seen Nick Chubb run? That's the way they are explosive. So, I mean, they've got to try to score with the Chiefs, but they're going to run it. And I agree with what you said. They're a balanced attack that can do both things. They've got to do both. And they have to score with the Chiefs. But, I mean, they're not going to run it like 3 yards a pop and have 11-minute drives either. So, yeah, they have a good balanced offense. That's kind of a weird thing.
Well, and Baker Mayfield's played really well since about week 4 or 5 of this season. He's everything you'd want in a quarterback. I mean, he fumbled a couple of times, but he hasn't thrown a lot of picks. He's made good decisions. If you've paid attention to Baker Mayfield, you're seeing a quarterback that's growing into the type of quarterback the Browns thought he would be.
I mean, that Monday night game against Baltimore where, you know, Lamar and Baker were kind of going blow for blow and the two offenses were putting up big points. People thought that was like the game of the year in the NFL. And the Ravens got them, but the Browns, you know, it was a high-scoring game and the Browns hung in there. So it's one of those things like and I have fought this all year. I do think when Baker wasn't playing well, you can fall into this. If your only comparison is Patrick Mahomes, and it's like, oh, he's not Patrick Mahomes. It's like, nobody's Patrick Mahomes. If your only plan as a franchise is get Patrick Mahomes, you're going to be waiting for a long time. Are you a quarterback that can help your team win? Are you a quarterback that can make plays and not turn it over and be efficient and effective and explosive at times? Yeah. So, yeah, you know, the Chiefs have the better quarterback in this game, but that's true every single time Patrick Mahomes steps on the field his whole career.
Yeah, and in fairness, now, Steve Smith Jr., former Ravens and Panthers wide receiver, might not be terribly impressed with how Baker Mayfield is playing, but the guy coaching across Andy Reid, he's seen some really good things from Baker Mayfield. Let's listen to what Andy Reid had to say about Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's matured on the field. I think he's really fallen in love with this scheme, it looks like, and mastered it. So he's doing very well. That's not an easy thing to do when you've been given a couple different things as a young quarterback, a couple different schemes to, you know, try to be the best at. That's not easy to do for these quarterbacks. A lot of guys get lost in that, and looks like he's really powered through it and done a nice job.
Andy Reid, Chiefs head coach, talking about Baker Mayfield. Let's bring Doug Lesmerises back in there. And Doug, you know, a lot is made of quarterbacks and development. You have to put a quarterback and play to his strengths, put him in a system that plays to his strengths for him to develop. And Kevin Stefanski's done that with Baker Mayfield right now.
And we do that a lot. You know, you look at Josh Allen in Buffalo, and they've done right by him, and he's succeeded, and look what he's doing. You look at Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. They've done right by him, and look what he's done, and look how he's succeeded. You know, I was in Philadelphia working there when Andy Reid was there with Donovan McNabb. And Donovan McNabb wasn't Patrick Mahomes, but Donovan McNabb and Andy Reid developed together in a system, and the Eagles went to 4 straight NFC championship games and got to a Super Bowl. And so a lot of times, you know, I think we don't do a very good job of understanding how much the system matters to a quarterback. But, yeah, I mean, you can see how this is working now, and not only how it's working now, but how this can work long term. You know, Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb were together for, 10 years in Philadelphia. And that very well could be the path that we're on, you know, with John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, with Sean McDermott and Josh Allen, and with Kevin Stefanski and Baker Mayfield.
And when you look at Baker Mayfield, he's starting to beat defenses with his legs as well at crucial times. And I think that speaks not only to his, you know, he has that athletic ability, he's starting to see what defenses are trying to do to this offense and recognizing and understanding.
And I thought early in the year, I think I wrote it at some point that was a thing I think that separated Baker from some of these other quarterbacks, is that he didn't do it that much. And it's not like they're going to have a called run game for Baker. But when you look at so many quarterbacks now, it's such a given for so many guys. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are so good at it, but Russell Wilson's good at it, and Patrick Mahomes is good at it. It's getting those yards, those hidden yards, when you turn a good play for the defense into a good play for the offense, because a play that should have been a sack, instead it's a 7-yard run for a first down. And he just didn't do that. And that he has done that at times in the second half of the year, it is a big deal. There's that pocket awareness. There's great protection from the offensive line, but there's also having the, when he got out of the pocket last year at times and early this year, it'd be more like bailing because he didn't like what was going on. I think he's getting more decisive in, hey, look, I have an opening. It's time for me to go. And that's just a very different approach to leaving the pocket. He's leaving more on his terms than getting forced out of something and bailing out.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's a better way of putting what I was saying, as far as he recognizes what the defense is trying to do. When you look at this game, certainly Chiefs probably the best team in the NFL, certainly in the AFC, defending Super Bowl champs. What are some keys, as you see it, for the Browns to be successful in this one?
I think the numbers tell you the Chiefs don't have a great run defense. So if the Browns can do that, listen, they've had so many guys moving in and out on the offensive line. They didn't have Wyatt Teller for 5 or 6 games. Obviously, they missed Bitonio last week. They missed Jedrick Wills for a game. They've missed Conklin at times. The idea of that, man, if they could have their offensive line, and they had that time when they had Teller and Nick Chubb out at the same time. Nick Chubb and Wyatt Teller both out. And they went 1-2 in the 3 games where they missed both those guys. I get it. Every team has that this year. But if they have all their dudes in this run game against the defense that is not great against that, that's a really good matchup for them. And then the thing with Kevin Stefanski is he's going to know that the Chiefs are going to expect that and do that, and he's going to work all kinds of stuff off that. Now, we have our podcast, Gotta Watch the Tape, at cleveland.com, and Ellis Williams on that for us has been really good about how they work the wide zone run game and then the play action pass and the bootlegs from Baker Mayfield. And Pittsburgh's been really good at taking away those bootlegs from Baker. So we haven't seen them the last 2 weeks. I don't know how good Kansas City is at doing that. I don't think they have all the defensive linemen that Pittsburgh does. Run game, play action, Baker bootleg is really an offensive formula that I think has a chance to let the Browns hang around in this one. I think that matchup is quite favorable.
And then defensively, my personal thing is they can't you got to stay away from the 80-yard touchdown pass to whomever it is. They're going to score, but you got to make them drive it. Don't let them get it in one, 2 plays.
It's hard with the Chiefs because they've had times this year when they haven't looked like the Chiefs. And the thing I think we don't know is there something there? And I've seen some people make some smart comparisons. I can't remember the year, but I think that the Packers were 15-1 one season and lost their first playoff game. And it was like they're great, they're talented, but like what's kind of up with them? Their record was great, but their games were a little clunky sometimes. So were the Chiefs a little bored? Were they a little distracted? Or are they a little vulnerable, right? And I think it's possible that we walk away from Sunday and say, oh, look, they were bored. They were distracted. Oh, they dropped 6. Okay. But I also do think it's possible Tyreek Hill is an incredible talent at receiver, incredible receiver, smaller receiver, right? He's not Chase Claypool. I don't know if Denzel Ward was possibly designed to hang with Tyreek Hill. And getting Denzel Ward back, no one's going to stop Tyreek Hill. I'm not so sure that might be as good of a guy that you could hope to have run with Tyreek Hill a little bit. I am just infatuated with that matchup. And getting Denzel Ward back against anybody is such a huge deal. But, man, this might be the Denzel Ward game.
I agree with you 100%. Let's take a quick time out. So when we return, Doug and I will continue to talk Browns, Chiefs as they get ready for the divisional playoff game Sunday. We'll also check in and talk a little Buckeyes. Took a tough one against Alabama in the national championship game last night. More sports and Les Levine. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
We're living in uncertain times, but you don't have to put your future on hold. At Tri-C, you can move ahead while staying safe and saving money. The majority of fall classes will take place online, but we've added a variety of formats to meet your learning needs, and we've taken many steps to keep you safe on campus. Whether you're ready to get started or your four-year plans have changed, check out Tri-C's programs and resources, because Tri-C is where futures begin.
Well, hello, everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Brown's Football Insider. For only $3.99 a month, you can get text sent right to your phone each day from me, Dan Lobby, Scott Pasco, and Ellis Williams. In addition to that, you'll receive a Football Insider newsletter every day with special things from us, things that you won't see anywhere else on the site. You'll get breaking news, analysis, features, film breakdown, and things like that. Texting us directly gives you a great chance to cut through the clutter of Facebook, Twitter, other social media, and avoid the trolls. Also, it's the only way to get your questions on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. So why should you sign up? Try a 14-day free trial. You can cancel at any time. All it takes is one text, but you won't want to cancel. We have hundreds of subscribers join us over the last year. They love it and have stayed with us. We're seeing the Football Insider community grow every week, and it's only $3.99 a month, which is less than 14 cents a day. What I like most about Football Insider is the opportunity to connect with you one-on-one and really communicate with you. So how can you become a Football Insider? You can click on cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. Or easier yet, text me at 216-208-3965. Again, that's 216-208-3965.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant, whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
More sports, and Les Levine continues. Dave Bacon filling in for Les Levine. Let's bring back in cleveland.com and Plain Dealer columnist Doug Lesmerises. Doug, Alabama, outstanding offense, maybe one of the best offenses in college football history. 3 of the top 5 finalists for the Heisman. Just takeaways from that game against Ohio State last night.
You know, I watched Alabama and I thought of the Chiefs a little bit. I think it's an interesting comparison. That the Ohio State defense has had trouble all year. The Browns defense has had trouble all year. You thought both formulas for Ohio State last night and the Browns coming up is score with them, right? So it's 52-24. I'm more surprised by the 24 than I am by the 52. I didn't know how Ohio State was going to stop them. You almost wish that the Ohio State defense from a year ago, the Chase Young, Jeff Okudah, Damon Arnett, Jordan Fuller, Malik Harrison, Davon Hamilton defense, all those guys are in the NFL right now, that they would have gotten a shot at this offense. Because I don't know that they would have stopped it, but that they just were a little step short on talent this year. And then their scheme wasn't great. They ended up playing 4 linebackers a lot against this high-flying passing attack. They didn't play nickel defense very much that people might thought they have to do. But I do think they didn't really get to work out some of their defensive problems during the course of a truncated season, and the result was their defense kind of was what it was, and it wasn't good enough. So Bama's Bama. It's arguably the best team of the best coach ever. Saban's won 7 titles. This might be his best team. So sometimes they get you, man. And by the way, I did this research today. Everybody knows this. This is not great research. This is Nick Saban's first win over Ohio State at Alabama. Everybody remembers in 1998 when he beat him as the Michigan State head coach. But he'd beaten everybody. Ohio State was 1-0 against Alabama, Nick Saban. And so this is what Saban does to people. So if you're an Ohio State fan questioning the Buckeyes, you got Saban, man. But, welcome to the club.
How much did they miss Trey Sermon? Went out on the first play of the game. And, I mean, Master Teague did fine. but he's how much think they missed Trey Sermon?
I keep saying this. I know I'm not the only person saying it, but it reminded me a little bit of when Ted Ginn Jr. in the 2006 national title game against Florida got hurt on the first touchdown celebration. It's a tremendous skill player, but it also changes your game plan. Because I thought Trey Sermon's emergence the last two games against Northwestern and Clemson is what gave Ohio State the shot. I thought Ohio State had a shot last night, but the shot was to score with them, and score with them not just because you have a great passing attack, which we knew all year, with Justin Fields, Chris Olave, and Garrett Wilson, but because Trey Sermon brought a dynamic running attack that balanced out this offense. Master Teague's solid. He's not dynamic like Trey. And Trey Sermon wasn't dynamic like that first month and a half. But Trey Sermon, man, he was karate chopping people when he got to the secondary. He was unbelievable. And to lose him like that, it doesn't mean Ohio State would have won. But I think they would have scored more than 24. And again, there was a time, right? I mean, you get down there. I thought they really missed Trey Sermon. They're down 21-14. They get in the red zone. Yep. They miss a throw to the end zone on first down. They run Master Teague on second down for 2 yards. They throw on third. They kick. They kick a field goal on fourth down to go down 21-17. I felt like if Trey Sermon's in the game, they run him there. They use him there in the red zone. They might get tied 21-21, and you just hang longer. It was huge to lose him.
Yeah, and it does. It alters everything that you're trying to do and affects a lot of different things. All right, let's switch focus back to the Browns-Chiefs matchup. When you look at the Browns' defense, 5 turnovers against Pittsburgh, 4 interceptions, and kind of a gift on the first play of the game. How important is finding a way to win that turnover battle? Browns are 11-0 when they win the turnover battle this year. If they can do that against Kansas City.
Ben threw it to him. So, that's who's got fingers crossed on the Chiefs snapping it over Mahomes' head on. Ben threw it to him. So, Mahomes isn't going to do that. And I've been moderately skeptical during the season of the idea of leaning on turnovers. I think the analytics people would tell you that there's a lot of randomness to that and that it's not really something to rely on necessarily, and it comes and goes and you can't really control it. Now, the caveat to that is Myles Garrett creates turnover. And when Myles Garrett was getting strip sacks early in the year, when Myles Garrett was just in people's faces, and the pressure absolutely leads directly to the turnovers, whether it's him forcing a fumble or getting pressure that forces a pick, that's not random. That's not luck. So that is a real thing. A lot of the rest of it, I do think you can work on it, and I know they work on it, but it's hard to rely on, but what choice do they have? Like you're not going to stop them. So Myles Garrett has to have a huge game. They have to try to pressure, but Mahomes gets out of the pocket and he makes magic happen. So I think it's really tough. Their best defensive plan is turnovers, but I don't know that they're going to be able to count on it. So then what? So then try to win 52-49.
Yeah, I see what you're. I mean, I don't think they can necessarily stop the Chiefs. Nobody has really stopped the Chiefs' offense. If you find a way to confuse coverages, Mahomes will try to throw on the run. You just have to get one of those where you're in the right spot kind of deals with a couple of the defenders. And I think to your point, you can't plan on that, but you hustle.
Hey, did I lose you there?
No.
Sorry about that. The other thing is, Olivier Vernon's out for this game, but you get Denzel Ward back, and Ronnie Harrison's back, and Zadejo's back, and B.J. Goodson is back, and Jacob Phillips has played some snaps here in the second part of the year, and he's back. They have, again, and I did a thing a couple weeks ago. They had fewer of all the playoff teams. Only the Saints had fewer guys play 16 games the full season this year than the Browns did. They only had 7 guys play 16 games. The only 3 guys on this defense that played every game were Terrence Mitchell, Sheldon Richardson, and Jordan Elliott. So they've had guys in and out of the lineup the whole time. And we know the linebacker crew, they move guys in and out, but if they have kind of all those guys, if they have everybody on the defensive line except Olivier Vernon, if they've got Denzel Ward back, if they've got all 3 safeties back, they do have a chance. They still are a vulnerable defense, but they have a chance to be about as good and healthy as they've been as a defense the whole year, shy of Vernon. And so how good is their defense? I still don't think it's very good, but they might be pretty close to their best version of themselves, which is what you want to be in the second round of the playoffs.
Has it sunk in yet? 2 wins and this team's in the Super Bowl. I mean, think about that. 2 wins. Browns are in the Super Bowl for the first time in franchise history.
I can go back and show you the piece I wrote a year ago about projecting them to beat Tom Brady in the AFC Championship game or something like this. I was just doing another show. I can believe it. And I don't want to turn every conversation about this into analytics, but it's not coincidental. This is what 1-31 started. There's a straight line. No, I take that back. There's a wiggly line. There's a wiggly Sashi Brown, John Dorsey, Hugh Jackson, Freddie Kitchens line, but it's still a line. There's not really a break in that line. It just wiggled. But 1-31 got you Myles Garrett and Baker Mayfield and Denzel Ward and Nick Chubb high in the second round. And all the money you didn't spend back then, all that cap space, allowed you to get Jarvis Landry and Jack Conklin. And, it just, there really has been a plan in place here. So on the one hand, yes, they've been bad for a long time. On the other hand, they had to break the stranglehold of 5-11 and 6-10 getting you nowhere. 5-11 and 6-10 were never going to get you anywhere. So they went all the way to the bottom to come back up. And that's what happened. And that might be the thing that people can't wrap their head around, that they can't believe a plan actually worked because there's this just level of doubt with the Browns. I can believe it. This was always planned and it worked. So whenever anyone says, can you believe it? I sort of say, yes, I can.
I'll just put that ball right up on the tee for you there. How do you say?
I don't always do it. I know I'm a Sashi truther. I get it. I've been writing about it for 5 years. But this is what you would have dreamed of back then. And I tried to tell people that 1-31 was not, they were doing it for you. It didn't mean it was guaranteed to work. But now that it has worked, I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that this wasn't just all luck. How do you get Myles Garrett? You get him with the number 1 pick in the draft. How do you get the number 1 pick in the draft? You stink. How do you get a franchise quarterback? They didn't have a franchise quarterback forever because they never took a quarterback any higher than the 20s. You got to take a quarterback in the top 10 picks. Well, how do you do that? You got to stink. So it worked. So they did. And they got them. And they're good. And now they're in the playoff.
All right, let's look at this game before we let you go. How do you see this one unfolding? Not necessarily a prediction, but what do you think happens in this game, and how do you see this one going?
It's how long can you hang, right? I mean, I do think last night's Ohio State-Alabama game is a very good illustration. Alabama never let up. I don't think you can expect the Chiefs to let up. I don't think you can expect the Browns to really stop them. So that means the offense for the Browns can't miss. You can't kick a field goal when you had 1st and goal at the 8. You can't, punt 3 times in your first 6 possessions. You have to be efficient constantly, but that's what this offense at its best is built to do. So they don't have a threat. Their Tyreek Hill is home. OBJ is the Browns version of Tyreek Hill. They don't have that. I don't know how the Browns cover Travis Kelce. He might have 12 catches for 200 yards. But they've got to score with them, and the balance and the progress that we've seen in this offense, if they run the offense to peak capability, they have a chance. That's the hard part about this. The Browns have to play at their best to have a chance. The Browns at their best doesn't guarantee a win. I think the Browns not at their best offensively guarantees that it's going to look maybe a little bit like it did for Ohio State. But if they are at peak efficiency offensively, I think this game can go into the 4th quarter, and then you take your shot.
Do you think the fact that the Chiefs have not played a lot of their big-time players in what will be 2 weeks, because they rested week 17 of the regular season, then they had the bye. So how important is a fast start, given that the Chiefs may come out just a little out of game speed and game shape?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's enough there are enough instances and data and anecdotal evidence of the past that can be something that we've seen teams that stay in a rhythm and teams that get a little rusty with a couple weeks off like that. So as much as I said, it's also possible that we're going to be like, oh, look, the Chiefs were distracted and bored and they dropped 60. I also think it's out there that what has been happening with the Chiefs and the weeks when they have not looked unbeatable, when they've looked like, what are they doing? Like, they're hanging around with this team. It's 22-17. I think that's possible out there too, that maybe there's something in this team that isn't obvious to the naked eye, but then we're going to look back and say, you know what, those sort of lackadaisical wins along the way actually were telling us something. You know, I think that's possible too. That's not great analysis by me, but I mean, I don't think we know. I think for as good as they are and that they're the defending Super Bowl champs, I don't feel like we have a great read on the Chiefs right now. And I think part of what they have, the raw talent and they have the ring, but the level of play week to week, I do think is slightly questionable. And it may turn out that there's something to that, and the Browns are absolutely right there with them.
Last thing I'll ask you before I let you go. If you were going to say you have the magical powers to have a Brown player have a huge game, who is it?
As much as I just talked about how important this offense is and hanging with them, I think it's Denzel Ward. I think it's people saying things like, we've never seen a cornerback take Tyreek Hill out of a game the way Denzel Ward just took Tyreek Hill out of a game. Because I think it's that explosiveness. They have a couple other explosive guys too. But Tyreek Hill, I think, is the most explosive guy in the league. And if we enter a world where they keep throwing deep to him and Denzel never lets him get free, and then they can't take those shots anymore, and anytime they try to hit him short and let him run, Denzel's right on top of him, and we get to an end of a game where Tyreek Hill has 9 targets and 4 catches for 37 yards, and people say Denzel Ward played like one of the very best cornerbacks in the NFL. That's a game-changing kind of performance that I think is possible. But if I could give magical powers to somebody, to Denzel, to make that happen.
Doug Lesmerises, columnist here on cleveland.com, as well as the pages of the Plain Dealer. As always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much. Appreciate it, Doug.
Thank you.
That'll do it for this edition of More Sports and Less Levine. We will be back here tomorrow night from 6 to 7. The D-Man, Dennis Maniloff, is our guest. We'll see you again. Stay safe. We'll see you again tomorrow night. Have a great night, everyone.